What if the real source of your pain isn't where you think it is, but is actually being caused by restrictions somewhere else in your body? That's what we're talking about today on Wellness by Design. We're also talking about how to release those restrictions. So I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer, and my guests today, I have two guests today, Deanna Hansen and Stacey McCarthy, have developed a program to release adhesions in the body that are actually the true sources of pain, creating miscommunication within the body. And their method is a way to release that. Okay, I'm excited to share this conversation with you. And I want to say, if you're new here, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're a longtime listener, thank you to you too for helping to make Wellness by Design a top 3% podcast in the entire world. And I appreciate that you subscribe, that you tune in, that you share episodes with friends, you leave comments. I hear from so many people that what they're learning in this podcast is helpful. So thank you so much for being here. And make sure you stay tuned till the end, because Stacey and Deanna share really surprising little tips on how you can shift your body into a healing state today. Okay, I'll see you inside the episode. Deanna Hansen and Stacey McCarthy, welcome to Wellness by Design today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
This is unusual having two people as my guests, but there's a reason, and people are going to hear what that is. So I met two of you earlier this year when we were at a retreat, the Holistic Leadership Council in Mexico. And we had this session where you both led us in this combination of, well, you'll hear about it, but it was really quite amazing. I've been doing yoga for a long time, and what I notice is that like sometimes we're rushing through and not really getting the full benefit. And what you two put together, it just goes to another level where the body just gets the opportunity to respond in a different way. So it's called the Unbound Method. Maybe we'll hear from you first, Deanna, on what took you to this and how, and then we can hear from Stacey on why the two of you came together. So let's hear from Deanna first.
Great. Thank you so much, first of all, Jane, for having both of us. It's really exciting for us to be sharing this information. So I started the Iyengar yoga teacher training back in around 2000. And at the time, it was very exciting because part of the training was every week we would go to advanced classes. And what would happen for me is I would go into my postures in the classes. I would feel in my body where I was restricted from going deeper into the posture. I would come home, and then through that week, I would do fascia decompression work on my own body. And then week after week, I was very quickly moving more deeply into the postures. And yet I would notice that the other people in the class were stuck in the alignments that they had. So I didn't actually follow through and complete the teacher training because my work took me to fascia decompression. And then I started creating fluid isometrics, which was the work with my hands that I teach therapists to do. And then block therapy being the self-care version of that. And it was probably a year and a half ago when one of my community members asked if I would actually put together a yoga block therapy fusion. And I'd wanted to for years, because when this work really began for me, it was really yoga and the work that I did on my body that became the foundation of fascia decompression. So I was waiting, though, for the right instructor to join me, because this work is really important to me, that it is in combination with the foundations of yoga that makes sense. And there's a lot of yoga out there. And, there's yoga for abs, there's all these things. And I really wanted to wait for that teacher that truly taught from the foundation of the yoga principles, combining the understanding that I learned with alignment with Iyengar yoga, but with that feminine element. And I had the exquisite opportunity more than once of having classes with Stacey in retreats that I happen to be with her. And I recognized, wow, if I'm going to partner with anybody, I want it to be Stacey McCarthy. So it was last year's HLC retreat when we were in Mexico when I approached her and I asked if she would join me. And it was a resounding yes. And here we are.
Wonderful. And I want to get back into afterwards, what these different parts are. People might be wondering, what fluid isometrics, what's that? Or so we'll come back to that. But Stacey, I'd love to hear from you. You've been practicing yoga, teaching yoga, really at a high level for 40 years now. And so what was it about what Deanna brought to this that made you say yes?
Well, I began in the fitness industry and I was teaching all the latest fads and they would bounce from one thing to another. And what I noticed about it is a lot of it was outside of you. Like all the marketing and even the movement was something outside of you. Turn up the music louder so you can't hear your breath. Look at yourself in your mirror so you can judge yourself rather than feel what's happening. And and when I discovered yoga, and I was fortunate to have incredible teachers, I started this exploration of going inward and started to cultivate more self-trust that everything I needed was already within me. And so when we start to combine, and that's, by the way, the style of yoga that Deanna was taking, Iyengar yoga, very precise style of yoga. So as she mentioned, there's so many styles of yoga out there. Some of it these days I look at it and I'm like, is this like an exotic form of, Eastern calisthenics? It's like so fast, it's like very fitness driven, and it's literally the kind of the same fitness driven type of yoga of looking at yourself in the mirror, judging, comparing, competing, blasting the music so you can't hear your breath. And what I've always stayed with is more of the traditional style of drawing you inward, techniques and things to continue to draw in to feel what's happening and learning how to actually listen to your body's communication. And so when Deanna and I got together, the way that she works with fascia is it is a beautiful, beautiful symphony of the way I teach yoga, where we are both helping you draw in to your own innate power that's within you
Ah,
and allowing you to find your breath, to find the stillness within, so you actually hear your body communicating. And it's just such a beautiful combination because the fascia is waking up those areas of restriction that you may not even know are there. And Deanna is such a master of taking us through and keeping us connected to the breath. And then the postures that we do, which are traditional postures, we're not seeing how fast we can go. We're actually feeling. And so this combination of the yoga poses with bring balance, stamina, strength, the flexibility, combined with the fascia starting to release the restrictions in the body, you start to have a whole new awakening. And and the beauty of it is, especially women with chronic pain a lot of times is us not accepting our body and us
yeah.
not actually loving our body, but beating the crap out of ourselves about our bodies.
Mm.
And what both Deanna and I are trying our best to do is help you hear your body is not something to be angry about, to be disappointed about, to be frustrated about. Frustration is that combination of anger, disappointment, and embarrassment. And so many women live there. What we're trying to do is help you understand the beautiful communication the body is trying to tell your mind through the breath so that now you can pause and you can go, you start to understand, hey, everything is communicating to you is on purpose to take you where you need to be. And that's at the deeper layer. What we're really trying to do is help women heal from their chronic pain and do their best and treat themselves with compassion because things start to shift and change then.
I really love so many things that you said there, both of you. Um, that this our body is communicating with us all the time, and we're up here not paying attention. So in the style of yoga that you teach, Stacey, you're like communicating, you're listening to your body, and then we're getting different messages if we're not constantly like hating on our body. And what I love about the combination of what you and Deanna are doing is Deanna's helping to open up that communication pathway because I mean, let's talk about fascia. Maybe some people watching or listening don't even know really what fascia is. What I've come to understand is that it is a communication highway in our body, and if it's tight, then communication's not happening. What would you say about fascia, Deanna?
So, I mean, as Stacey said, I was that woman in my 20s. I was studying to be an athletic therapist here in Canada, which is like physiotherapy, but working specifically with elite athletes. And I was doing the work. I was dieting. I was working out like a fiend. I was beating my body up. And the harder that I worked, the more compressed, ballooned, and toxic I became. And it was like, why are the rules of weight loss not working for me? And it was when I was 30 years old when the awakening for me began. Fortunately, I had started yoga and I had an exceptional teacher in the beginning who every 30, 45 seconds reminded us to breathe. And every time she prompted us, I was like, wow, I'm holding my breath. I'm holding my breath. And I mean, I was going crazy. I was training for a marathon. I was doing 400 sit-ups a day. And what was happening is I would come home after a workout dripping wet with sweat, but my belly would still feel cold. And then suddenly I had this anxiety attack. And this was really the moment that awakened me to fascia. Because in that moment, I actually thought I was going to die. I was so frozen in fear, I couldn't catch my breath. So for some reason, I dove my hand deep into my belly. Now, this was an area I never touched because this was where I carried my 50 extra pounds of weight. I was ashamed of it. I was embarrassed all the time, and I just wanted to avoid it. So now here I am diving my hand deep into this tissue. Prior to that, as an athletic therapist, I focused on deep tissue work. So I was very familiar with what scar tissue felt like in people's bodies, but never had I gone into somebody's abdomen, and certainly not my own or let anyone else for that matter. So as I'm in there, the first thing that I encountered was pain, but the pain brought me out of my anxiety and I'm back in my body and I'm recognizing, okay, I'm breathing, I'm alive. So I continued to explore intuitively with my hands. And what I felt under my fingertips was what felt like it was marbled with scar tissue, even though I hadn't had any injury or surgery there. So suddenly I was like, wow, well, no wonder when I'm coming home from exercise, dripping wet with sweat, my belly's still cold. There's no energy, there's no blood flow getting to this area to metabolize it. And it was after 2 days of working in this manner in my body that I stood up and I looked in the mirror and I felt taller and I became emotional because my belly was flatter than it had looked in years. So this became my new process every day. I'd come home from working on patients. Now I'm in my own body. Within 2 weeks, my chronic low back pain, my neck pain was improving. But most importantly, I started to feel trust and hope and joy because it was like, okay, something's actually working for me. So this really became the foundation of how I understood the world of fascia because after working on myself, now I would start working on clients. And as the years went by, I was attracting therapists to learn this technique. And it was probably 2 years in when I really recognized I'm not working in muscles and ligaments and tendons. I'm actually working in this connective tissue called fascia. So a little bit about fascia. It's comprised of a number of components, but two primary proteins, collagen and elastin. And when they're in balance, what we get are cells properly aligned. And the reason that's important is because that allows for optimal space in and around the cell. Space allows for ease of nutrients in, waste of removal. There's ease of flow. And just like in yoga, if we're flowing easy, it's a wonderful practice. When the body doesn't have ease of flow, we have dis-ease, and that can surface in so many different ways. And it's really the collagen protein, that structural protein, that will migrate when we start falling out of alignment because we are constantly under the force of gravity. We have trauma throughout our lives that have impacted how we breathe, created asymmetries in the body. So then we pattern to keep our bodies upright. So as those collagen proteins migrate, they create adhesions along the way. And they'll actually grip to bone with a force of up to 2,000 pounds per square inch, locking
What?
us into those negative patterns. So my work is really all about finding those areas of density and restriction, taking time so that we can melt through the adhesions, connect to proper diaphragmatic breathing. And then this is where the yoga pillar is so important, the third pillar of my work. Pull those collagen proteins back into balance with the elastin. So we have that body that can again come back to proper diaphragmatic breathing and have optimal space for optimal flow to keep your cells fed and clean. And as long as they're fed and clean, they're not screaming at you and you're a happy body.
Wow. So talk about the method that you have. You said, you're using for yourself, you are using your hands and fingers to feel
Yeah.
the
And so
tightness.
fascia decompression is the overall science. As we go through time, we compress. That's what gravity does. It compresses us. We become shorter and wider, and we all have our patterns that we fall into as a result of trauma, which the first thing that happens with trauma is we reactively hold the breath. The deer who survives the attack will shake and release that negative energy, where we as humans, we compress and then we age from there. And then the body has to pattern. So
Mm.
that's the key. It's really understanding the patterning and then undoing those patterns so that we can bring the body back into balance. Now, Jane, can you ask me the question? Because I went on a little tangent and I forgot what you asked.
Well, I was asking, like, you said you use your finger, you
Oh,
were using on yourself your fingers to feel this.
and that was the first thing. So fascia decompression being the goal, and then fluid isometrics became the name of the technique I developed, which you can use on your own body with your hands, and I also teach to other therapists to do on clients. That can be challenging though, especially if people have limited use of their hands. We also have to go pretty darn deep into the body's structure to get to the root of the issue. So block therapy ultimately became the self-care version of fluid isometrics to support fascia decompression in the body. And there's three pillars: creating space, which we talked about, how we want to put that space back in and around the cells, inflating that space with blood flow and oxygen, areas were previously blocked, and then maintaining the space with understanding proper postural foundations, which is the essence of what Stacey is sharing with the work.
Right. And I just gotta say that when we were at this conference, you were sitting in front of me, Deanna, and I'm like, I have never seen better posture. Anyway, so you've obviously opened it all up so that your body is in proper posture, so that there is flow in that in the fascia. So you held up a block there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the block buddy.
Yeah. So when I did this session with both of you, this lovely, beautiful session in Mexico, we were using these blocks. And how are the blocks integral to this? I mean, probably supporting those three pillars, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, in our program, we will also, people can also use a rolled up towel. We teach you how to roll it up, and the key is density. Now, the blocks are unique because those collagen proteins, those adhesions will grip to bone. Bone and wood are similar in density, and the blocks are very specifically shaped to make it comfortable in the body to go deeply through those layers to get to the root of the issue. Unlike,
Mm.
fascia rollers, for example, where you're rolling on the surface, that will improve blood flow in the surface layers. But we think of taking a boat on the ocean compared to deep sea diving. With this tool, we don't move on the surface. We get into position and then we very slowly shear through the layers of fascia to find those deeper adhesions with the goal of getting to the bone where we are ultimately locked out of alignment.
So essentially, it's almost like that wooden block is doing the work that your fingers did. Is that
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
And then through the breath work and the yoga poses, you're creating that space. Is that right, Stacey?
Yeah, so when we bring in the yoga poses, so our technique that we've developed together is to first take a yoga pose. So even if you've never done yoga before, I'm sure you've seen a picture of a downward facing dog. That little, your hands are on the ground, your booty's up in the air, and your heels are coming towards the ground. So we'll take a common pose and we'll have people just experience it, and they're going to go, "Ooh." where do I feel it in the body? So part of this, again, part of the work that we're doing is to pull your mind into complete union with your body, because your mind's up there and out there, and it's in the past, it's in the future, it is all over the place. And in yoga, we call it the monkey mind. It's just all over. So we want to pull your mind into the body. So we get you to do the pose. Just allow you to feel it. Just where do you feel it? And then we go in, we understand exercise physiology and kinesiology. Where are those sticking points? And then we block it, or we use the towel for it, and we allow the fascia to decompress there. And then we come back and we have you feel it in that area. And then we'll find a new place. And we'll go through like 3 different areas of the body until by the third, fourth time you've done that downward dog, it is a completely different pose. And now all of a sudden, instead of like dreading doing it, you're like, I have a lot more joy in this pose. I feel more expression in the pose where I'm finding the space that before I just felt completely like concrete and stuck. Now you're starting to experience it. So this is the methodology that we've developed to help people find, again, more joy in this. And the yoga poses bring in that element of both balance and stamina, stability, along with the flexibility. So it's a very, very powerful combo that we've created for people, again, to walk through life a little lighter and a little less being out there with all the noise outside of them, telling them who they need to be and how they need to be it. We want
Mm.
we want women to come home to themselves and trust that the temple lies within, that to cultivate the self-trust that's always been in them, that they've allowed the outside world to hijack and tell them what they are. And so when women have this chronic pain, what happens a lot is they are so in the external. They are go by a mirror or they go by a car window and they beat themselves up. And they tell themselves they're overweight, they're weak, they're old, whatever is going on. And this is a very difficult way to heal chronic healing. They've got to go within and they have to really honor this magnificent human body that they have. And that's what we want to do. We want you to come back and realize how magnificent you are from the inside out. Because it's not out there, it's inside. Everything's created twice, first inside, then on the outside.
Yes, I love that. I love that we start inside. And I love that what you're talking about is empowerment because, especially for chronic pain, well, maybe a lot of other things as well, we've been taught to go seek the person who's going to help, and do it when it really does start within. So I love that. I love what both of you are saying there. And you know what I felt when I did the session with you? It sort of felt like my body just went like a big sigh and it could just let go. And I don't know, there's like a certain like self-acceptance that came with that I thought was really beautiful.
That's really
So
what we want. That's what we want for everyone is to love themselves. That's the bottom line is come back and love this human being that is you.
beautiful, beautiful. So you've put together the work that Deanna did, and you've put it together with yoga. Um, so what is this that you're putting together?
I'm gonna let Deanna.
Okay. So the Unbound Method is there are 9 standing postures to really create that opportunity for balance, strength, and stability in your foundation. There's also 8 postures that we take you through to understand all the rest of things. And I'm going to actually let Stacey talk about the different postures generally or individually if you choose. But what is so beautiful about it is just what Stacey was saying. You feel in yourself when you're in the posture where you're limited. And then you move to that space and you spend 3 minutes at a minimum connecting to your breath, connecting to the inside areas with the work of fascia decompression using either that rolled up towel or the block. And you start to melt through those adhesions. So you create more space. So just as an example, in downward dog, you get into the posture and we have, again, 3 different areas that we will work on, but we start with the ankles because the way that the adhesions will grip to bone, we root most strongly in the feet negatively. So if you have, say, a
Interesting.
frozen shoulder and you go and you have your shoulder worked on, you might feel good for a moment, but you start walking, those patterns are going to pull you right back in because your feet are the furthest from your engine, your diaphragm. So this is where we get locked in. So until we start to really recognize the value of changing your foot structure, we are only going to be managing and cycling through managing symptoms and managing pain. So after we do downward dog, as the example, we work the front of the ankles where most people really struggle with proper dorsiflexion. So then we pattern. And if you have bunions or funny toes or whatever, most people's toes aren't properly connected to the ground. They've even done a study showing longevity and toe strength are connected. So when we start to release the fronts of the ankles, and then when you're in your downward dog, as the example, you can ground into those heels more, that changes everything up the structure. And then you start to feel, okay, I'm actually making progress here instead of simply feeling where you're blocked. Because that's what will happen. If we're, for example, we're wanting to stretch the hamstrings and you go into a forward bend, what you're doing with stretching is you are keeping what you have available at its most optimal length. However, with fascia decompression added in, we are releasing those adhesions from the bone to create more tissue to lengthen. So it's such a beautiful experience when you can actually feel how quickly your body is capable of changing. And we've done that through 17 postures in total to really give you this full body impact.
Beautiful. I really like the way starting with the feet. I mean, people wouldn't think that, right? But starting with the feet is pretty amazing and just surprising for people to think, okay, what I've got to do, I'm really tight in my hamstrings. That's where I need to loosen up. But it's not that at all. We're starting. I like what you said about your feet are furthest away from the engine, which is your diaphragm. I mean, how many people are really thinking their diaphragm is their engine, but that you need to start far away because it's really like this alignment is what we can't align, right? If we go back to those old habits of, the walking, however we've been walking on those feet because of the adhesions on there. Okay, so Stacey, do you want to add anything about that?
Yeah, so when we come then to the yoga pose, it's very physiologically directed where we look at the three platforms of the body and what do they protect. So if we're standing and we start with the standing poses, the first thing we're going to look at are your feet and your ankles and make sure, again, the bones are aligned properly and the muscles start to stabilize. And when that happens, it starts to protect your knees because if your feet are off, right? You're rolling in, you're pronated, you're turning out. Guess what? There goes your knees. So people, as may have a lot of knee problems, but they're thinking they're trying to do something around their knees. And it's like, look, start with your feet and your ankles.
Exactly.
Exactly what Deanna said. And that's what we block first. And then we move up to their pelvic girdle. And they're like, my low back hurts so much. Well, they're thinking about their low back, but if their hips are off, and their hips aren't aligned and the bones aren't aligned there and nothing's stabilizing, then of course your low back's going to hurt. Then we move up to the shoulder girdle and they're like, my neck is always bothering me. So they do all this stuff for their neck. But if the shoulder girdle's that's not aligned, if it's not stable, it's not going to matter what you're doing here. So we're very thoughtful in how we are taking you through this to keep it as safe and as effective as possible.
So you've put this together as an online program, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so people would go and to go work through the program in an online setting. Are they like pre-recorded or is it live classes? What do you have?
They're pre-recorded. Stacey and I have spent two separate times here in Winnipeg filming the different positions so that we can have a really full body, amazing effect to give people that recognition of who they truly are.
So,
Also, Jane, we did a test market with some of the the best in the world, and that was at the Holistic Leadership Council, where you experienced it, where we had the top integrative health professionals and doctors and really people, the best of the best around the world. And we took them through a class, and we had such extraordinary feedback from it of the changes that they felt that we knew we were on the right track with it. So we're so excited about this program to help people.
And I do just want to share because you had mentioned, wanting to help women, but one of those members that participated, Dan, it was lovely because he's my age, 57 years old, and he's a fitness guy. So, he's doing the running and the weights and yoga wasn't real his thing. And I don't even think block therapy was really his thing, but the combination, he actually did a video testimonial for us. And he said like he's got a newfound appreciation and love for both as a result of the combination. So that was such a lovely thing to hear. It's not just for women.
Right.
Love that.
And the other thing is a lot of people are very intimidated about yoga because
It's
they've
true.
tried it before, it hurt, they felt like concrete. And this approach to it, I just want to encourage everyone, come back, try it with this approach and see if you don't feel more joy in your body
Mhm.
and more acceptance and also finally like more self-truth that you
Mm.
actually start trusting your body and you're not outsourcing it to everything outside of you.
hmm I think what you said earlier, Stacey, about like there's so many different styles of yoga being taught, and some of it, I've been to classes like there's like a fitness class, and it was so not what I have come to appreciate yoga to be. It really is about getting to know yourself and getting in touch with yourself. And I know from all the work that I've done with people with chronic pain is that's where we need to go. We need to go inside, love and accept ourselves, allow our body to release because we've held so much inside trying to hold it all together. And so there's emotional release as well in the physical release, and I think what you've put together is just absolutely lovely. Is there anything else either one of you want to talk about in terms of what's offered in the material that you've put together?
Yes. One thing that I would love to share is when you understand the fascia system and how to bring your body back into alignment, it doesn't matter if you're struggling with chronic pain, if you have trauma from past that's still impacting you, which of course we all do, if you're struggling with your size and shape, if you don't like the way that you're aging, if you have skin issues, everything is a fascia issue because fascia innervates every single cell in the body. So this is accessible to every person and every condition, and we make it really simple. And because we do everything very consciously and it's slow moving, there's nothing fast. So you don't get into those opportunities to actually injure yourself from this work. And that's the part that I love the most about it is the thoughtfulness of the slow, progressive way we share it. People can access it. You can feel it in the moment. And even if you're bedridden, you can start with pieces of it and then you can work your way up. And that's the lovely thing that I see in my community all the time is that people start restoring their body and things that we've been told aren't true. For
So
example,
many
I mean,
things.
yes, if you have bone on bone and you need that knee replacement, probably you do. But the body's ability to regenerate and repair when we give the cells the space to, first of all, move out the debris, the inflammation, all the toxins that have been stuck and trapped in the adhesions, and then send positive flow into the space, it's amazing what we can actually do and heal from. So no matter where you're starting, I've got people in their 90s starting this work.
Oh, wow.
It's accessible to everyone.
I always say that the body really has the wisdom to heal. We just need to give it the environment to do that. And the environment includes a lot of things, but it includes that fascia and the communication highway in the body. And so this is part of giving it that environment. And I love that you said you've got people of all ages, even someone that's bedridden can do this. Because a lot of people, if they're hearing yoga, they might be like, I can't do yoga. So you're really making this accessible for people, which is really lovely. What about you, Stacey? Is there anything else you want to say about the program?
Yeah, I just reiterating what you said, Jane, is that yoga, especially with social media, people now look at it as some like Circus Soleil act, and that was never its intent at all. It was really a remembering to come back to yourself. And the techniques that we're using are specifically designed for first, start in the body, get safe in your body. And when you feel safe in your body, then again, breath is starting to move the energy, more balanced energy through you, starting to fuel you. And when that happens, the mind now becomes more centered, more calm. And now, perhaps instead of, doing the excessive dieting or doing, things that are actually telling your body that something's not right, that you start to walk by a mirror and just telling yourself how grateful you are for this body, how grateful for you are that you've got two arms if you have two arms, how wonderful your body is. And as soon as you start to change that, everything starts to shift. Everything starts to shift. So it is a beautiful, beautiful combination of your body, your mind, and your spirit.
Mhm.
The spirit's not going to shout at you. It's not going to be in the ego. The spirit's going to come home and start whispering to you exactly what you need to hear.
If I may
Ah,
share one more thing, just because Stacey, you just volleyed this where you said coming back to yourself. I also like to tell people it's coming back to your cell. So that cell membrane, this is really the key. I live in Winnipeg and it can be -40 here in the winter, and I can have the best of the best inside my space. But if my window breaks and I can't fix my window, I'm going to die. The cell membrane is what we're really addressing with this work. So the integrity of the container is strong. Think as soon as you have an apple or a banana and you slice through it, now you start oxidating and things go bad really quickly. When we
mhm.
can bring that cell container, and we can do this through this work, bring it back and bring that structural integrity back, that's really how you start to connect more deeply. I love Greg Braden's work. He has a
Me
book
too.
called The God Code. And he shares how on the surface layer of every membrane is basically the message divinity lies within. So if we're blocked from cells because of scar tissue and adhesion, we're only really communicating with a small percentage of what we have accessible to us. And that's the remembering part. When we open up, we melt those adhesions and we bring life back into cells, and we inflate those cells with oxygen so we can, again, think of that balloon fully blown up that glows, defies gravity, but take half the air out, it becomes wrinkly, dirt and debris get stuck in the creases and it becomes heavy. That's the human going through aging in the way that we think is normal, but it doesn't
Mm,
have to be. We have this ability to go through time without gravity taking the wheel. We can actually take the wheel through this work, and in a very and this is the feminine piece of it. It's not through force. I was doing that and it took my body into hell, truly. So this
mm.
really brings you back to that lovely, beautiful space within yourself where you can hear what your creative gifts are and you can share those with the world.
I love that. I love that you came back to the cell membrane. I mean, it's everything. I just interviewed Bruce Lipton, and he, like, his groundbreaking work, it just, the cell membrane is everything. The cell operates from that membrane. And so we need that membrane to be getting the communication and having that flexibility and so on. So yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, I want to, well, I just let everyone know. We'll have the link. If you're interested in learning more about the Unbound Method, just check the description below this. We'll have the link there for you so you can have a look at that and check out this beautiful work that will help you connect with yourself again, give your body what it needs to let it its wisdom flow naturally and speak to every single cell in the body. But I also want to ask you, and maybe two of you can answer this. I love to finish with what's one thing someone could do today right now, after they finish listening, that's going to put their body into a healing state. So, Deanna, I know you mentioned something earlier. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, one of the things that we always share, again, because the toes are so integral to create proper alignment, we should have 60% of our body weight on our heels as we tip forward and rotate. Most people have most of their weight on the balls of their feet. We need to bring the toes back online, but first we have to release the adhesions between the toes. So you can use a finger, a pencil, or even a cord. And I'm just going to pull my screen down. I'm wearing shorts, so excuse me, but it's really hot here. So what we do is if you use a finger, all you want to basically do is you want to put the finger between each toe to the point where you feel it. And then you want to be focusing on proper exhalation. So exhale for a count of 6, inhale for a count of 4. And if you have the time, you want to work every single toe for anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. If you can work up to 3 minutes, you're going to see changes really fast. So again, it can be a finger, a pencil, or if you have mobility issues, you can even use a cord or a rope and you wrap it around and you pull and you hold. You can do this in front of a TV show and get all toes. If you only have, say, 10 minutes or less, what I would do is I would spread the toes apart, see which toes don't spread apart, and focus at least on that one. And that is going to start to create more of a connection to the earth. And when we're connected properly to the earth, the energy travels up the chain, as does alignment. So that in itself, that's a thing you can start right away.
Amazing. Okay, I'm gonna do that. I noticed a little bit of tightness there. Thank you for that, Deanna. What about you, Stacey? Do you have anything you want to offer?
Well, from the physical standpoint, it's one of the reasons Deanna just answered the question of why do we do yoga barefoot? Because we want to get connected to our feet and toes. I'm not going to do anything physical because you're going to get that in our program, plus so much more. But I really want to remind, all the women out there that we are going to go through things in our lives, and whether that's dis-ease, whether that's chronic pain, whether that's, the traumatic things that may happen in our lives. A lot of times what we do is we go in and we blame ourselves and we beat ourselves up. And I want everyone to just today and maybe this whole week, if you can do this, treat yourself like you would a good friend, like a very good
Mm.
friend. If a good friend came up to you and said, I'm going through a very difficult time, I have pain, what would you do? You'd say, what can I do for you? What do you need? You'd give them a hug. You'd tell them you love them. Can you do that for yourself? Just for this week. Every time you catch yourself doing that, can you just pause and give yourself a little hug and ask what you need. Ask inside, what do you need? What are you telling me? And treat yourself with some compassion like you would a good friend.
I love that. We've gone like bottom up from the feet, but also in our mind and speaking to ourselves kindly. So I love both of those responses. Thank you so much, Deanna. Thank you so much, Stacey. Thank you both for putting together this Unbound method to really change people's lives. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I've experienced it myself, and it was an incredible release. So I'm just so grateful to two of you for putting this together. So we'll have the link there. And if there's any final word, do you have anything else you want to add that we might have missed, either one of you?
My tagline is breathe and believe. And that I've held true to that for the last 26 years of this work.
Breathe and believe. I love it.
Yeah, and my tagline is powerful body, peaceful mind. It's a beautiful, beautiful combination. And it equals a soaring spirit. So powerful
Uh,
body, peaceful mind.
Absolutely gorgeous. Two of you are beautiful, bright sparks in the world, and I love that you've come together to collaborate on this project, taking the best of what you both do and putting it together in this program. So thank you so much, both of you, for explaining it to us today, for being guests on Wellness by Design, and also to all the people watching and listening. Thank you so much for being here. And what's your takeaway from this today? What did you learn? Did you Did you get a different perspective on how you can actually support your body to heal and then heal your life and get back to living the life that you want to live? I'd love to know. Share it in the comments. If you know someone who needs to hear this, then go ahead and share that with them. And check out Deanna and Stacey's Unbound Method program. All right, thanks so much, everyone. We'll see you again soon on Wellness by Design.